And hello there again, Star Wars fans. This is B Soklu again. Um, I thought I was trying to do the game review all in one piece, but just guess there was more to say than I thought, and so had to break up into two pieces. So, um, if this video stays in two pieces, just as a summary at this point, I've won the Champions League playing game, and I've done the first two of my pod play, one against Brad Iyer and one against Matthew Harrison Trainer, sitting there at 1-1 and working on grinding my way through the pod. And now, as I referenced in the first video, I am going, because we can't always show our plus wins, we have to show our minuses too. I'm going to show you one of the worst losses I've taken in a competitive game in a very, very long time. Um, no one likes showing their their bad plays to everyone, but I thought it was important. I mean, for the sake of completeness, I am going to start with that one and get that over with. Let's see. So this one here is my second matchup against Matthew Harrison Trainer. I decided to go with Court of the Vile Gangster. It's a deck that I find to be a lot of fun. There's a lot of battling and um, just, highly interactive, and usually you go fight at their sites and all of that. So um, and once the starting effects get revealed, I'll kind of talk through this. So Matthew Harrison Trainer goes with Agents of the Court, with Fen Rao, like Mandalorian reps. Um, it's a deck that's been commonly played. Ryan Jellison kind of pioneered it, and it has been getting some popularity. Um, and this was a complete and utter beatdown. And I think and then after talking to my teammates afterwards, it's a deck that or a matchup I'm heavily unfavored in. But I think a very big part of it was I did not recognize quickly enough how unfavored I was. A couple things that happened were like I saw all these things happen on screen, but then I got like 2 or 3 turns into the game and I realized how bad it was. First of all, my audience chamber gets converted by the Agents of the Court objective. So I don't have the ability to get an alien leader, and I don't have any protection for canceling scum and villainy. Um, and Agents of the Court is particularly bad because at least if you're playing against Prophet, where that happens, you do get 2 aliens you get to deploy as part of their objective. So maybe you put Jabba down, or maybe you put Proxima down, or something like that. And so I'm saying this all in hindsight. This is really bad. And now maybe if I have a Jabba in my opening hand or a Scum in my opening hand, or at least when I draw up in the first hand, maybe I can stabilize. But spoiler alert, does not happen. So for those who don't know, the Agents of the Court deck, particularly with the Mandalorians, it's a really fun deck. There's lots of relatively cheap characters, but there's ways of generating lots of power. You can add battle destinies. The 7 side of the objective generally adds a power destiny, so you can really get a lot of damage going very quickly. And then especially if you're playing at your own sites where you kind of want to be, it can really go places. And then Fen Rao, who has since now been changed by the errata in December, but um, he had the ability to go back to hand multiple times, and you could use him to like recancel a battle destiny, and there's lots of fun stuff with him. He still does that, but the bounce to hand I think is only once per game. And so yeah, I'm starting it out. I get a docking bay. I have a couple ships in hand, which is fine, I guess. Another docking bay, and then the cantina build, or pulling down the cantina. So now I am losing force to my own objective. I pitch a space cruiser from the court ping. I don't expect to need a ton of space, and I also don't have an own system yet. I also activated my Nal Hutta. So after this first turn here, I have a couple of aliens, I have a couple of cards, but I don't have a Scum and I don't have a Jabba. So I have no reasonable way of getting to either of those. And to be fair, I don't realize yet how big of a problem that is, because I was thinking in one of these turns like, oh, I'll deploy Java from reserve, and maybe these cards in my hand aren't great, but I could actually the cards in my hand are great. But just oh yeah, I'll use the dark side of my audience chamber objective. So at this point, I still don't realize that um, I can't do that. And I'll try and pinpoint the exact moment where I'm like, oh my gosh, I am so in trouble. Oh, and then insult injury, he gets to deploy his own Jabba's Palace and make me lose a force, which probably hasn't happened since Jabba's Palace sealed. He does lose to his objective. I do have the Tarkin's Order combo, which could protect me against a Battle Destiny cancel, which is nice. But I get a look at my deck. I put out Nal Hutta. I think this is the point I realized how much trouble I was in. I think I went to go click on the audience chamber and I'm like, oh wait, it's not lit up. I can't deploy Jabba. Oh crap. And so then I think I this is I think the important lesson and why I want to show this even though it's embarrassing is because at this point I panicked big time. And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, what am I going to do? I need to do something. Just need to do something." And I do wonder if um should I have considered like just drawing a bunch of cards? Maybe, if I checked my reserve deck carefully enough, maybe Jabba's in there, or I'm sorry, force pile. I mean, check my reserve, know what's in my force pile. Maybe Jabba's in there, maybe Scum's in there. You don't necessarily need Jabba if you have Scum, but either way, I just straight panic. I go with Power of the Hut. Probably not to get Bib Fortuna, by the way. I probably want to get Hut Influence because that allows you to convert sites or raise your converted site to the top. And then I hit on Bib and I'm like, oh crap. And so then I definitely know I don't want to go to the audience chamber. And so I hit Bib. I go to the cantina because at least you're going to get that jury juice pull. Again, I'm just spitballing fully, and then I try and go to space and ground in the same turn um, without scum out, so I'm paying full freight for it, and then I leave no force saved. Um, and MHT is got 16 icons. He's activating 16. He has 19 active now. And so here's a lesson of what not to do. He pulls wild card from reserve, and I think he just really goes to town on me. Um, he knows he can spread, and he has the audience chamber covered up, so I can't necessarily just put scum right there. Okay. And so just as a factor, this is again a little bit about what this deck can do. All of these cards came down for 16 force. Um, Now, granted, they're all a little bit scrubby, but this Arwheel guy helps a lot. He gets deploy reductions to other cards. Um, MHT told me he put this card in specifically to. I think he was worried I might play ISB, and so he wanted to really mess with all my male Imperials. So now he's battling in space. He is flipped, so I do play the Tarkin's Order to be sure I don't get canceled. But now he has a Fen Rao in hand. And I draw 3, but I think he's immune. He's immune, and he has all these extra Imperials. So now I just got cleared out of space without doing nothing. He took over my own system. He probably has Tatooine in his deck, like the Tatooine system in his deck, but at this point, he's probably not going to deploy it. Why would he? He's got a really stacked system here. I don't have Scum online to retrieve or anything, and he has a decent grasp on the audience chamber. These cards are not great as they are, but he probably has some evasion. At a minimum, he also has the Mandalorian that he can move as a react. So he has options. He recognizes that I'm in a really bad spot. And here I go reinforcing the audience chamber, not the cantina. And then I think at this point I just want to go for it. And there's keep your eyes open. So I have 3 shots that I don't get to use. That was why he was comfortable leaving this alone, I believe. Cancels my Battle Destiny draw. And he's redrawing with Yoxkit again. And so, yeah, this is not great for me. It's really interesting because you could look at this. We're on turn 3. I have 31 cards in Life Force. He has 23. We have like 5 and 6 cards in Lost Pile. Like, this game is not over in the sense of, um, you know, actually over, but it is actually over already. But, you know, we can't concede in these pod play matchups. We have to play the whole thing out. But I at this point I knew I'm trying to just not get embarrassed any more than I already have. But he's gonna bring the house down on me. I do not have the Gick, but I had Barrier the Din Jaren, but he's very happy to battle anyway. And now he's redrawing and refilling his hand again. And I peel 11. There's the scum and villainy off the top. And then he gets retrieved a hand and go from there. So I'm going to speed this up. He has Ancient Watering Hole online. He has control of systems and 3 sites. He's going to drain me for like 8 next turn. But then I do go back down because I do have to put up a fight. I'm just going real hard and leave there, but to block a drain there, but I'm getting drained for 2, 2, and I think it's 6, along with retrieval from the 7 side of the objective. And here comes Fen Rao again. This is an interesting thing. Like, he was in the upper hand. He probably could have battled into me and cleared me out, but I think he recognized there is a lot of dangerous cards here. I have a Boba Fett with Blaster who has a gun. IG-88 can capture. Hidden Weapons is still live with this kind of setup, and so I think he wisely recognized that he doesn't need to battle to win the game, especially with him spreading out as much as he does. I have 1 card in hand, so how am I reasonably going to be able to contest any of these sites with probably some of my best characters committed to these 2 sites? He's never going to the Cantina. Because why would he? And so he's just spread out. He's got so much damage online. And again, I already know this, but I battle anyway. I expect there's a second Keep Your Eyes Open, or I suspect that there might be one. And sure enough, there was. Definitely the right grab in this scenario, but still just not a great situation. I do wonder if do I end up just peeling from reserve? Oh, and he draws a 7 as well, just to really insult the injury. I do wonder if I peel. I don't. I wonder if I should have. Actually, I don't think he did enough battle damage to kill me all the way because I didn't want Din retrieving. I didn't want either that. I didn't want Din retrieving. I didn't want Fen Rao retrieving. Also, I could have just been so flustered that I forgot about that. Just lamenting how terribly this went. But at the same time, he does have some ability to keep retrieving, so I can't allow this game to go on too much longer. Which it won't anyway, but because he's draining. Or does he get me this turn? Maybe he does. Yeah, look at this miserable board position here. He's got Ancient Watering Hole online. And again, reminder, when all this stuff is pod play and all differential base, you got to be really careful about when the game ends. Oh, I think he does actually get me this turn. Oh, and he's able to put a card back in Life Force and retrieve before he does the last bit of damage. And I know I have a 2 sitting there. But he's going to be able to retrieve again with Fen Rao. Oh, no, it's once per game. Yeah. Oh, it's probably showing the new version of the card text here. It was not once per game when this was done. So I that I peel the last card from Life Force, so I end up losing that game by 25 Life Force. Um, it was really interesting. I was able to have a conversation with Matt after the game, and he was playing this expecting the perhaps that My Kind of Scum Gamorreans that was going around at the time, and that would have been a really good matchup against this. So I was he wasn't expecting me to play court, but so it was kind of one of those like collateral damage situations where just kind of ran into a awfully bad matchup. And again, bad matchups happen. That's the thing. But I do think that I panicked in the middle of that game when I realized how far behind I was, and I made this really awful mistake of trying to go to space and ground on the same turn, and then just got my butt blew out. So I think that's the lesson to take away from this is like you also do need to recognize quickly when your own win condition is threatened so fundamentally, and either do something to change it or play very aggressively or take on common lines. Okay, let's move on to something a little more fun, at least for me. Now I do have I'm going back to Brad Iyer, and we have a flip flop of a mains matchup. If you recall, we played Hunt Down Virtual versus Hitco, and then I decided to go back and run Hitco, and he runs Revenge of the Sith Vader. So not totally the same thing, but again, we are talking about a mains versus mains matchup. So generally, you're fighting over a site or two. Battle tricks end up being really important, and going to the ground strong when you think when you think you're capable of it, because both teams or both sides can amass a lot of power. So we're going setup now. He does hit his bridge first turn, which is nice. I do have a Luke in hand, which is really good. I can get and the Bionic Hand is also really key in this matchup, because I could probably survive a battle if the attrition isn't too high. I think that Luke is a real tank when he's got a saber in the hand on him. I decide to just draw. I think it was again. I think I'm not activating a lot. I think I need to fill my hand. I'm playing Walkling and not the Twilight's Upon Me, so I need to find some more activation, or I need to save cards for the next turn. I find out Your Only Hope, which gets sensed, which is a really great move on Brad's part. He knows that I'm struggling for activation, and being able to sneak in that early sense sometimes is really really critical. So I do kind of draw up. I still haven't found my other sites to help with activation. And then I'm losing for reserve, and now the prophecy's gone to his side, which does give me an extra icon. But and again, I do still have the Luke in hand. So I do think I do try and challenge him next turn. So he's going to get his second Twix out. Or he uploads it. So here comes this Luke Skywalker Jedi Knight, which I hear is a good card. I do get the Luke Saber. Of note, I do have two of my sites in reserve still. So oh, I recoil in fear. I'd forgotten about this. Again, this was months ago that we played this game. And so I mean, I think one thing that was interesting here was I did luck into a blaster deflection here. And I have a neighbor and another Luke and a saber, so I think this was a really good recoil and fear. I wanted to get rid of some of his cards. Probably he had wondered if he had battle tricks in hand, but he did get the lightsaber parry into hand, which is a card that you really do want to grab in this situation, because this Vader can upload it if you're alone in battle every turn. Usually I want to get that Vader's anger, but lightsaber parry is kind of on the realm of blaster deflection. When I need to be able to swing my sabers, I need to make sure that I can get those through, even if it's not the card I would ideally want to grab. But he is going to throw his saber to. He can't swing a saber, but he's going to try and get. I think draw high enough into Destiny to clear me. And I do draw poorly, but I am up in power. He draws a 5, so I am going to win the battle. But I think the key is, does he draw high enough in attrition to clear me? Which I don't believe he does. Yeah, I am immune at this time. Now, to be fair, so is he, but I do win the battle, so I do get a card stacked. I do, get to do Hitco things. He also doesn't have his lightsaber anymore, which I don't think these cards let you get it back. That's what I Am Your Father does, which he does not start. And so, again, oh, he has it in hand. Okay, because you're really gonna need that to get the saber back. So he's gonna lose a force. Sniper Darkstrike, which I'm sure he would have liked to have. And then now he comes down with first strike as well. Another very common thing in mains versus mains. How often are you battling into each other? So he's gonna be doing some damage to me just by the act of initiating battle. I do have a force save for the blaster deflection. I don't have a Gick here though, but I do. So I'm a little concerned. I need to draw high. And I don't deflection the first one because I want to deflection the second one. Because if he if he hits me on the first one, he hits me on the second one, it's wasted. So I am going to swing at Vader. There's a force field, which again I'd like to grab, but I had to grab the parry. And now I have my own deflection, which he will grab on his second grabber, which is nice, so he can leave the other one open for Anakin Skywalker or something else. He does. I do the Vader exchange or the Luke exchange with Bionic Hand to get that recoil and fear back. He does add to attrition. Only draws a 3, which is not great because I'm probably gonna. I mean, the Destiny in this deck's pretty high. Draw 6, so I am gonna win the battle again. I do. I don't believe he draws high enough with attrition to clear me either. He draws a 2, so I got to imagine that Brad's getting pretty frustrated at this point because he had 2 opportunities to swing at me. He did not hit either one of them. And my Luke is still there. This battle was on his turn, and then he leaves the Vader there. So I'm gonna get to battle into him on my turn, I believe. I don't recall if there's a way for him to move away. He doesn't have another site he could teleport to, so I do come down with that Cassian because he doesn't have a saber even, so I could just cancel the Destiny. I'm assuming I'm going to hit him, and then I will swing at the Lone Vader without a saber, which isn't a great feeling, but I'm at least going to get him in power. And I do draw high on that second one, fortunately, to hit. So I think if Brad doesn't have a Gick, he's in trouble. Or he's looking at peeling some because I am going to cancel that Destiny with Cassian, I believe. That's why I put it down. Don't draw well, but I am already so high in power and he's forfeit 0 that I think it's okay. Cancel the Destiny, which happens before he can take it into hand with Vader, I believe. Which was a great card to cancel because I don't want him redrawing that. And so he does lose another force to I feel the conflict. And so yeah, so that Luke is just sitting there again, doing Luke things. And now I have a lot of really good Destiny. I have really good interrupts in hand. I have a Clash, which I could pay for. And sorry about the mess. Or pay with first strike out. I have that sense if I really want to pay through his sense shield or my own sense shield actually to get it. Yeah, I'm sitting here. Vader's of course always scary, but I do have multiple characters here. Can't hit them both. So I'm, and I'm already up quite a bit in power. So I'm not super concerned, especially with the Luke in hand. And if I hit him, this is a Vader, I can clash. So we'll have to see kind of what happens there. He does draw good on the he does draw the first as a 5. And I don't think that hits. Oh, I'm sorry, it does hit. So he does finally hit that Luke. I do have another one in hand though. And then I'm gonna swing at him. Actually, I have 2 Lukes in hand. That'll be helpful. I have 3 and a 4. So that does hit. I do wonder if I clash him, because then it just ends the battle, and I have a character there that could drain. And I have a Luke that can go down again. Oh, I think I probably do clash now. I decide not to clash. I think it's also that I'm still high up in power and I could be causing overflow. Oh, I will be doing a little bit of overflow, but he will be clearing my sight. But he does have another Vader in hand, but I'm very ahead in life force. And I have a Vader or a Luke in hand with a saber still and clash. So I think that's why I was. I'm sure I thought about clashing in that moment, even though I would have lost my own Luke just to end the battle. But I think I want the battle to go through and get another force loss from I Feel the Conflict. Definitely of note, I'm certainly in force preservation mode at this point, and I think Brad's also thinking about that as well, trying to keep as much force active or minimize differential probably at some point. I mean, he's not out of the game yet, but he's quite far behind, and so and then Hiko does have the ability to retrieve, but he does have another Vader in hand, so he drew one off. And then I do have the Unita to get the other saber back, so he doesn't know I have the other saber in hand, or the Luke in hand. But this gives me a lot of ability to stick around on the table. Interesting though, I do not deploy. I think this is the same sort of thing, just trying to be patient. This board position is not threatening to me, and first strikes out. So what I don't want to be doing is continually deploying into him where he could just be battling into me. So I don't recall how long the staring contest kind of goes on, but not long. I think he knows that he has to get on the table to attempt to do anything. So does put Vader down with the saber. And I'm definitely going to be coming after him with the cards I have in hand. And being able to battle into with first strike. So now we are cycling around. I'm going to come down with Luke Skywalker Jedi Knight, which I think might be a good card. And then I'll definitely stick the saber on him. I stack the 6 on force pile so that it'll go back into my life force when I pay to retrieve. Hopefully pay to retrieve next turn. So I'm going to swing at Vader. 5, I believe this will hit then. I mean, at this point, these mains decks generally have a lot of red in their reserve, or high decis in their reserve deck. So once you've filtered out some of the other stuff. So I do hit. He Vader angers again, which was a mistake because now I can clash. Oh, he does sense. Shouldn't say it was a mistake, but I was happy that he didn't swing at me because then I had the opportunity to clash. But he does cancel it. Does lose to Your Only Hope, or there do or do not, but I mean you have to in this situation. Otherwise the game's just gonna effectively be over. He does swing at me, draws a draws that 0 again, which becomes a 2, which is pretty unfortunate. And he doesn't hit again. So he is looking at a situation again where I'm unhit. He will try and crack my immunity, which a couple times this game he's not been able to do, which had to have been frustrating for Brad. And then I draw 5. So again, we're looking at potential overflow if he doesn't draw high enough. And maybe not clearing me. He draws a 4, which I will subtract from, also just to get another card back in Life Force. There's only so many opportunities to play a Use Interrupt. And then he draws a 3, which I don't think is enough to crack the immunity. So I get another stack on that. Take a card into hand. Kind of wish I don't have to take a card into hand, but oh, I do have to lose him. Huh, I guess I didn't calculate it properly. Lose a card, but he will be losing the Vader himself. Does have the ability to Gick. So I retrieve a card back into hand, get the Destiny back, then I put Walkling out of play. I think this is a point where I'm trying to get as much Life Force and as many cards back into Life Force as I can. And I'm still feeling pretty good because I do have of Luke and Saber in hand. I am drawing, but I assume that I will not draw too much more. And he activates everything, does put a Saber back down. I mean, it's not a great position, but what are you going to do? Again, this is certainly a situation. If we weren't playing for differential, this game would have probably ended a little while ago, just because the winner of it is effectively decided. But we do have to play it out. I do have a Saber. I also have a Sorry About the Mess at hand and a Luke that swings at +1 Destiny. So odds are pretty good that I'm going to be hitting him and snipering him. I don't recall what happened here. So swing at Vader. So 4. And a 6. So super hit. I do wonder if I sniper here. Or sorry. I do. Just to get rid of him. He senses again. Which again you have to. But he is, he does lose more force to that. And he is down to 0 cards in hand. So he swings back at me. I do wonder if he's going to be hitting those low Destinies again. Yeah, the 3, and I wonder if that 2's floating around again still, that Vader Saber. Or City's Saber. Yep. Which has to feel, that's a definite feels bad moment. Just wasn't able to get his reserve deck kind of tuned where he'd want it to be. So, and then I draw a 7, which is definitely clearing. And a 5, which does not. Oh, he does have the Destiny to Attrition, but I think it's actually enough to get him though, because the stack to he is a chosen one, and then I think the peel is an. Oh, maybe it's not enough. Just stack. Do have to lose the Luke, which means I do lose another force. Lose Destiny from hand. Okay, he's got 1 force remaining. I'm able to get the Jedi's Fury back into Lost Pile. I'm not going to draw. I assume that he's just going to draw up the next turn, so don't draw any more cards and take him out of my Life Force. And then, yes, he draws up the last one. So I do win that one by 24. So I've had a couple back and forth, these last 2 games where I had a really big loss due to being structurally disadvantaged and then just panicking. And then this one kind of went the other way for me. I don't think this is generally a matchup that's that lopsided in my favor, but sometimes that's how mains matchups go. I did have the tricks. That hand kept me from losing Luke a couple times when I didn't have to, and he lost his. And so, but that certainly, I mean, that's the way these mains matchups go. If it goes the other way, or he hits me, or he clashes me, or something, those matchups can turn on themselves pretty quick. So, but that, and so then I'm going to go to the last game I got, which is, um, so I was able to get these first 4 games in against Brad and MHT pretty quick, and then Justin Branch was a little harder to schedule, but we do get this one going. Last couple ones of the tournament. Um, as a reminder, you can only play each deck once. And so you're asking, why am I playing the ISB again? But there was some rules that pod play was not, or the play-in game was not subject to the same rules. And so I decided I'm going to bring this one again. It's the deck I know the best, and um, by far the best remaining player in Justin. So I want to bring my best deck. Um, he flips over Quiet Mining Colony, which is that's a very challenging deck to play against as with the hands of a really good player. There's a lot of evasion. There's force drain canceling, um, and so in the hand, and then the force pile pull. So it's in the hands of a good player. This is a really tough matchup. Mains are really hard to deal with it because they can usually have like 2 guys that are good, and they can path around them or cancel weapon destinies or move around and cancel. Also, the Bespin system is a real challenge there, because if they control Bespin, everything is +1 deployed to Cloud City. They will have quick access to Bespin space with the Belden's Eye combo. They'll come down with the Hark and the Overseer a lot of times. So what I found with this deck, when I built this ISB, I did throw an extra ship in there because it's pretty potent in space. And what I found is this could be a grindy game, but if you can take the system, you can win the day. Because then you remove that, or at least not control it. But you have to take the system hard, because the space in QMC is surprisingly stout once you get past the Overseer. A lot of times they'll have a barrier because they'll flip with Harksef, then that force pile pull, maybe they're going to pull a barrier, or they'll pull an alternatives to fighting, to stall for that one turn, and then they'll come back with another big ship after that. Um, so so you have to have a couple of ways around it. You might need a barrier canceller. Also, one thing that's really nice in this matchup is starting battle order. So if you battle into them, each interrupt costs a force. And so sometimes that does catch um, less competent players. They forget about that. And I've had situations where people only save 3 to play the alternatives, and then they can't play it, and then they do get beat up. However, the good players notice that, and then they save the extra force, but that's not great in this situation for them, because that's another card they can't pull out of their force pile, or another card they can't draw. So you are kind of pinching them on resources, because that alternatives is real expensive. And if they do play alternatives into me, I'm 100% grabbing that to really keep the pressure in space. And so this was a good start. I do open hand the Dreadnought Puller, so that's great. I do have a Docking Bay in hand, and so what I'm really thinking I'm going to do is, if I can craft a hand to go to space, and go to space really hard, I think that's gonna be my best shot. I do not honestly do not expect to win this game, because I'm like, I just haven't won it very often. But I do also have the Forlom, which is a great card to keep cycling and finding the things you need. Um, Also, Dark Collaboration is really important in this. It does a lot of good things, including canceling barrier, um, or reacts away for the battle, or you can add a couple battle destiny if you get the right ISB agents together. So if I can piece this together with a couple ISB agents, I already have a ship. Um, like maybe I go for it. If I can find like a Callus or a Tarkin, or actually any other ISB agent to pair with Vandal, with Yularen. I do find another one, not a pilot though, so I am gonna want to find more. I do have a force push in hand though, so I can go maybe pull one the next turn, that sort of thing. I do have a couple of my EPP Mauls, which will be good on the ground. But again, QMC is gonna have tricks on the ground, so not really thinking about that at this point. I'm solely focusing on space. But I do think he will probably go for a quick flip here. He has to be a little more careful because a lot of times with QMC, you'll deploy your characters and then to flip and then move to the non-battleground here. Not always the best choice against QMC because I have a lot of spies. I could deploy directly there and perhaps beat him up. He does not do any of that. He does. But again, he saves 4 force, so I think he drew into an alternatives or he open-handed one. This signifies that he's got alternatives to fighting. And if he doesn't, and if I don't play anything like that, then he will definitely just save or draw a card out of his force pile. I do pull a docking bay out. I know this all happens fast in GIMP, but I definitely was looking at what was in my reserve deck, so I knew what was in my force pile. I think I want the Callus. I do. Just because I'm getting extra Battle Destinies, and then he does get that nice draw there. When he's deployed, I might be able to find another ISB agent, for example. So I go with him first. I do want to find another ISB agent. And I find the best one, which is Tyrdom, because I do get another card draw off of that. And then you want as many ISB agents on the table when you deploy Yularen because you get extra force activated on that. So, put a couple ISB agents down. Maybe I draw another one. I don't recall. I don't, but that's okay. But then I think I go with Yularen, which will help me activate a bunch more force. Keep my either use it to pay for things or keep my hand stacked. But I do have 2 Battle Destinies up here. I think Dark Collaboration's live. No, it's not because Tyrdom's not a leader. But I'm still representing 2 Destinies. He does not get a Battle Destiny. He does get Destiny to power, so he's in theory not being overpowered, but too much. But this is really weak for sure. And sure enough, he plays the alternatives to fighting, which I expected, anticipated. Definitely grab that though, because if I battle into him again, that's going to cost 5 the following turn. Like it's going to get really, really expensive. So he has to reinforce space quickly. I do get a command and a Navarre. So some good characters, but I do think I'm going to be sticking really, really hard in space still. I think he was taking a look at what was in his deck. I throw one of the Mauls back because I don't need to. Drops down his docking bay. And I think he drops a couple aliens going for a flip. But he does go to the same sites. Oh, I'm sorry. He couldn't keep him last turn. He's not flipped yet. My mistake. But he does go with Leia to the docking bay, or the transport to the docking bay. I think he's going to fly up Leia. Or the transport with Rey in it. Oh, he's flying everybody up. That's what it is. And then I drop in the card to pull out First Light, which is just a lot more power in space. And so he does draw everything, which means he doesn't have a barrier and he doesn't have the 5 to pay for alternatives, which I wouldn't expect him to do, especially with him not being flipped. So he's in a really tough spot. Hark is really fragile, and then I have a really strong space presence. I do wonder if it might have made more sense to land the Overseer maybe for a turn and then fly everyone up, because if he can stabilize and get his force pile going, maybe that would have worked, but that's all, of course, hindsight being 2020. Oh, he does activate one, so I do think barrier might be live, but he does have I do have a barrier canceller in hand. Might be trying to stall out for 1 turn. I hit another Callus, which isn't super helpful for me because I have him on the table. I do try and pull a docking bay. I go First Light. And I go General Navarre, which I think is just a lot more power in space. I see there's a 2 on top. Oh, try and deploy. I think I'm just trying to get the 2 off of the top. And I throw another card on. I think I was just looking at forfeit here. But I think that Dark Collaboration's live now is definitely is one of the things. Also Command is live. Oh no, Command is not live. But so I already have 2 Decies in space. I have a lot of power. He does have a Deci to power though, so um, there's a lot of things going on. But yeah, I'm definitely in a good position here. I do add 2 Battle Destiny, so I'm drawing 4. Um, I I played Command just to get the Ozzel out of the deck because you'll draw him as a 0 if he's floating around in there. And then he draws a Destiny to power, which is a good one. But he's very likely going to be underpowered. So I do hit a 4. I'm getting 4 Destiny here, an extra from Callus, and then this extra one from the Dark Collaboration. So I got a 4. I get a 5. I get another 4. And I think it was another red. And I hit another 5. So there's a lot of Battle Destiny up in space. And yeah, that was 18 Battle Destiny, and he hasn't even drawn it. He ends up conceding at this point. Something we weren't supposed to do in this pod play, but this was a really tough situation. He was in here, and I was just gonna clear that site out and then drop it down a bunch of ISB agents and kind of invade Bespin. So was able to get a real quick win out of that, a strong win out of that. So I'm going to stop sharing the screen though. But yeah, so that was the end of the pod play. I ended up going 3-3 out of that. MHT did advance out of our pod play, and if you should go watch the videos on YouTube for the finals. He did pretty good in that. So, but yeah, those were the games from my Champions League finals. Really enjoyed it. I want to thank particularly Sam and Chris Schoenthal for organizing it. It was a real bear of a tournament to organize, but it was really fun to participate in, and I'm glad I could do my part to make it successful. And also just a shout out to MHT and Ryan Jellison for getting all the way into those finals, playing a new deck every time. Again, watch those YouTube videos. There's some really cool stuff that they played, especially as they're getting deeper into the finals, because the amount of decks you can play are getting winnowed down. So, and then of course, congratulations for Jellison for taking it all down. And yeah, it was a really fun event to participate in, and I hope you folks enjoyed watching the games, and go on YouTube and watch the remaining ones. Thanks, folks. Take care.